All right, 1:15 to go for the third and final race here. Remember, 2 more races tomorrow before the big final. That's the top 3 boats will only be racing in that one. Stevie, this is definitely go time. You'd love to end day number 1 with a high, with a win. So teams down at the bottom, teams like the USA, maybe Swiss, Denmark, Spain, big time for them to go.
Big time. I mean, what caught my eye, Todd, was the fact that the top 4 overall in the season standings are the top 4 after 2 races here in New Zealand. This is an aggressive move, a different strategy from Burling. He talked about wanting to get to the end of the line that's in the middle of our screen, what we'd call the downwind end of the line. That would give you the inside run at Mark 1. Burling's changed his strategy up. Jimmy Spittle's changed it up to the left-hand side as well. But who's got it right? As per usual, Australia, they're leading back. He loves having that control.
Boundary penalty, New Zealand.
Oh, wow. Unforced error. That is not the change of strategy you want. New Zealand are going to have to start behind the fleet. That's crucial here, but here we go. Australia, Great Britain and Denmark, they're in a good position at the moment. We're lining up. Australia heading well in for the bottom of the line. It's going to be Australia or USA. Here they come. Let's watch Jimmy Spittle on board USA. He winds it up. 7 seconds to go. How's your timing, Jimmy Spittle? Line's going to turn white. Perfect timing there by Phil Robertson and Canada again, but the USA coming in like a raging bull towards Mark 1. Is he going to be fast enough to get round the top?
80 kilometers an hour of boat speed for Team USA at the start gun.
It's a raging pit bull for Jimmy Spithill as he is looking to grab hold of a win here to wrap up day number 1. It's the Canadians that make the turn first. France also diving underneath the Americans, but the Americans have a lot of speed and they put themselves in a great position.
Great position, Todd, but they're on the outside of the wheel as they go round here, and they're now totally controlled by those 3 boats inside. They must keep clear. They must wait for those boats to turn first. Jimmy Spittle's in a tight position now, and it's going to be Canada leading the fleet away. Australia have already split away, and we'll see how that works out for them on the run down to gate 2. But right now, things should be easy for Canada as Ben Ainsley's Emirates GBR. They need to see if they can split the fleet up and work their way back up the course. As New Zealand, look at the speed on the Kiwi boat. They were last after that start. The ladder line shows them in second nearly at the moment. They'll have the right of way when they come back together with the rest of the fleet here. Here we go. Great Britain must keep clear. France, you've got to be confident you're ahead. Delapierre's not confident, turns the boat, and it's going to be tight at gate 2. How are the New Zealand boat doing this, Todd? They're so fast.
Dead last off the line, and now the Kiwis are in play.
Got to give room to the French. He does give room, but as soon as they leave that yellow circle, Delapierre must keep clear. Expect an aggressive move by Burling here. He's going to rotate the boat up towards the French as the fleet split away, and it's Denmark off the foils. That could be disaster. As the French, they turn, but they've got to... Oh, big mistake by Delapierre. He turned the boat straight into Australia. There's going to be a penalty there, surely.
This is the umpires. Penalty France relative Australia. Port Tech boat not keeping clear.
So Craig Mitchell doling out the penalty to the French as they will have to drop back. And now we have got a race on our hands. The final race of the day here at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. Perfect conditions. This is an opportunity, Steve, for other boats to pick up some points. And right now, it's Phil Robertson in Canada in control.
Well, it is, and I think you can see here the dark patches of water. Well, New Zealand ran out of wind there as we're going to come back on board the French. We're looking on board the French. He turns the boat, but he's not looked over his shoulder at the Australians, and suddenly they realise, oh no, we're going to have a problem coming fairly soon. He rounds up on the inside of the mark here. They're trying to set up to turn away from New Zealand, but in doing so, they turn straight into Australia. Unforced error for me, that one. And it's Canada and Great Britain, big gainers out of that, as there's more wind on that side of the course where New Zealand are heading now.
Canada at the lead still with 63 kilometers an hour of average speed. The British are slightly slower, slightly less fly time, but Canada showing us how it's done.
Canada, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, top 4. Switzerland's in 5th. France now into 6th place, 1 spot ahead of the Americans.
It's good to see Canada learning through the day here. They're getting faster and faster. They should still lead here at gate 3, but New Zealand, they just don't go away, do they? Our ladder lines showing us how tight it is. The right of ways with New Zealand and Australia. Canada, you want to be pretty confident you're clear ahead here.
Hearing from Lisa Darmanin out on the water, she says right turn now looking favored at the next gate. That's gate number 3.
Right turn favoured, that's good news for Canada. But, well, New Zealand, they drop behind the British boat, but now the British are going to have to dip behind New Zealand and Australia here, and the Kiwis are right in the hunt. I mean, this boat, they are flying out here on Littleton Harbour.
And New Zealand not needing any more help right now, as they've got a second and a first, and they are looking for another first to put a stranglehold on this one as we go down on the water to get a first-hand report from Lisa Darmanin.
Well, I don't think the teams can bank on anything they learned in the last leg. It's definitely changing a lot out here, and they're going to have to be adaptable. I think the next gate, when we see the right-hand turn, that's dangerous. There's not a lot of wind where we see that big grandstand. So if I was a team out there, I would be avoiding that light wind patch and heading out towards those spectator boats.
Here we go, that's a good call. I think it paid really on that last upwind leg to be away from the shoreline. It was the Canadians that went that way. New Zealand got a bit stuck under the shore, and are now big gain for the Canadians. But look how fast the New Zealand boats moved away from Australia. As Ainsley, he has the right of way, and Slingsby drop backs to fourth.
Quick throwback to that previous leg shows just how Canada kept that lead, 54 kilometre an hour average speed. The Kiwis again, slightly shorter distance. We really are seeing these modes play into their strengths today.
Stevie, it's got to be a nervous time right now for the French. After winning the first race, they now pick up a 6th in race number 2, and they're sitting in 7th in race number 3. Remember, they don't have a lot of wiggle room because they're 1 point behind New Zealand in the overall and only 2 points out of that top 3 spot with Great Britain.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big players have come out to play here, haven't they? And the Canadians are doing a fantastic job. But when we think of the season as a whole, this is a great result for New Zealand as it is at the moment, and a good result for Great Britain as we see New Zealand have to turn the boat away. It's tight in the pack. France are back in the game there, chasing down Jimmy Spithill, and it's the Australians, the big losers on that downwind leg. They were so close to New Zealand, but they had a tight cross, had to dip behind Great Britain, and all of a sudden that's lost them from third place, back to 6th.
And the first-time visit to New Zealand has not been kind to the Danes. They were sitting 5th overall in the standings, but they have come out with a 7th and 8th, and right now they are sitting in dead last in 9th.
So that's Phil Robertson planning ahead. He's 2 or 3 moves ahead. I think you can do that when you're in first place. He's talking about trying to do a left turn at the top and then manoeuvre the boat away from that shore as soon as possible. He's got Isabella Bertol behind him there, giving him the strategy, helping him with that big picture. Of course, if you're in the strategist role, you've perhaps got that little bit more time to look out, as we see. No need to look here. Aggressive match race manoeuvre by New Zealand. He doesn't want to give Ainsley an inch. Burling sticks it straight in his face as they're coming upwind now. All the big move away by Great Britain. He will protest here, I'd imagine. Turbulent wind going on to the British crew at the moment, and we should start to see the British boat slow down here relative to New Zealand. They're hanging in there well.
Look at the speed dropping on Canada out in front, but their speed came down all the way to 36 kilometers an hour. Meanwhile, Great Britain and New Zealand picking up the pace.
Expect a simultaneous manoeuvre here. Great Britain will look to turn, but Burling will slam the door shut in his face, was my guess. And they're going to come back together at this final gate. Looks like good news for Canada as Great Britain and New Zealand are in a bit of a fight.
And look who else has joined the party. The Americans now up to 4th.
Basically broken one side of the rudder wing, so we got that one like we did last time.
Wow. Ooh. So there's some elevators on the bottom of the rudder there. It's obviously got some slight structural issues with it, which will make the boat feel, well, it's going to struggle to fly, but it's also going to feel very unstable there. That's why Slingsby's going backwards very, very quickly through the fleet here. Going forwards through the fleet quickly. Well, it's Burling and New Zealand, and when he meets up with the Canadians at the bottom of this leg, he's going to have the right of way. So, who can find the most wind on this final downwind leg?
But Tom Slingsby can afford maybe a stinker here, Stevie, because he had a 4th in race number 1, a 2nd in race number 2, so he's got good points. But if he can salvage a 7th or 8th of this one with a broken boat, that's going to be huge.
Well, he can also afford a bit of a stinker because he's some 12 points ahead of the 2nd place boat in the season's points. But Tom Slingsby's brain doesn't work like that. He wants to be winning.
And you certainly don't want to be losing a race because of broken equipment.
And you don't want to come to New Zealand and lose to the Kiwis.
No, that is absolutely sure.
Back up at the front, though, the Canadians are still leading the way and stretching that lead even further as they head back out to the middle of the course where there is more breeze.
Pressure on this last manoeuvre. Looks like they've nailed it.
So this is like 6 of 7, the third and final race of the day here at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. And this will be critical as they come through this last gate. We've seen it tricky before. Now they have altered slightly, Stevie, the finish line here, so it might not be as hard as it has been on the first 2 races. But now Phil Robertson's got company in the form of Peter Burling.
Company, but we heard him say right turn straight in, so Robertson's confident. It sounds calm on board the Canadian boat, and they've done a great job. Let's be honest, they went from 1st to about 6th in race 1. They didn't look like they were sailing the boat well at all, and here they've had the informed New Zealand crew chasing them down, and they've held them off.
And in race number 3, it is the Crazy Canucks. The Canadians come to New Zealand and get the win. They claim race 3, 1 spot ahead of New Zealand, and Great Britain, they're moving in the right direction. They finish in 3rd.
Jimmy Spithill, he needed a good result, and De La Pierre, after that massive mistake, he's managed to get a 5th out of this. Good news for the French crew to get themselves in the game. Jimmy, well, he'll be happy with this result, but it's not going to be the day he wanted when you think of the season as a whole.
Under 90 seconds to go before the start of race number 1. Again, we are scheduled for 3 fleet races, condensed schedule today, and then only the top teams will race in that event final. Stevie, 1:15 now to go, and I got to think the teams, everyone's feeling a little sporty wanting to get after this first race.
Well, we're just so excited to be back, aren't we? Did you hear Lisa down there? I mean, she is absolutely frothing with excitement about getting racing. 1:05, the box is a little bigger for the start today. Teams are already on that run in here.
1 minute to go now before the start of race number 1 here in New Zealand.
It's just worth drawing your eye to the start line, the red line, left-hand side of screen, and that blue triangle coming off the start. That's the theoretical perfect place to start. Should give you the best compromise of distance versus speed to Mark 1. All the crews know that, though. So really the priority is hitting that line when the clock goes 0 at full place, and the manoeuvring now is crucial. Germany have chosen to cut back early. Their starting was incredible. Here we go. It's heightened on board. It's tight in the middle. Oh, there could be a collision in the middle of the line there. Oh, my word. Rockwool, Denmark and Canada. Rockwool, Denmark had to keep clear. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Big moment. Anyway, back to the boats. Australia, bottom of line, well positioned. New Zealand, top of line. The 2 big guns firing here with 15 seconds to go. New Zealand are going to be fast and loose at the top of line. Australia, how's their timing going to be? With Giles Scott coming through. 6 seconds to go. New Zealand winded up at the top of the line. France winded up at the bottom of the line. Watch for its turn. White. We go. New Zealand absolutely flat out at the top of the line. They're going to struggle to control the boat with those big foils from here. France on the inside should lead at Mark 1, but it's going to be a sprint.
Quentin De La Pierre and France very fast off the line as they approach mark number 1, and we are off and racing here in New Zealand.
Switzerland have managed to find a way through there. Nathan Outridge's first racing on the tiller of the Swiss boat. Great job. Australia in the pack. New Zealand on the outside of the pivot there. They're going to tactically struggle. And De La Pierre, well, he's one of the pre-race favourites in Big Breeze, and he's led the fleet away. New Zealand need to get into that boundary for protection. All the boats start to turn, but they've got to keep clear of Australia there on board. Canada, big contact. What? That was unthinkable there. They weren't in the boundary. I don't know that Canada can turn in front. That's a massive incident there. Oh my
major
word.
damage.
Major damage to the Australian boat. That's a day ender potentially there. I don't know what they've caught. Have they caught something in the water? France lead away to the bottom mark. They're going to turn left, trying to keep things simple. Great Britain turn back on the right of way here. France, Switzerland, New Zealand up to 4th.
So we've got confirmation that the Australian team hit that mark. That's what we saw turned upside down underneath the boat.
So the safety crew on the scene, they'll attend to Australia. Remember, they are the overall leaders on the season with an 8-point lead over New Zealand. But right now in race number 1, it is France, Switzerland, Emirates GBR, and New Zealand, your top 4.
It's a big moment there because really Canada had to keep clear of Australia, and Canada have turned at the mark. They're slow. Oh, it's a big incident. We're going to have to get the umpire's take on that because that seemed a busy moment. But the most important fact right now is France out in front, and they're going to try and sail this course as simple as possible. Coming back on board, right-hand side of our screen. Look at this tight moment in there. Oh, huge moment in the pre-start. That's the United States and Canada. Canada needed to keep clear of the United States there. If there was contact, it could be an absolute smorgasbord of penalty points. Here we go, Australia. They were forced to turn away here. They set up for the turn. You can see a sudden turn needed to be made to keep clear of Canada, but he just hooks that mark. Wow, massive contact. huge contact. We're going to see if we can get the Roos back racing. We'll hear more from them soon, but I think they just, you see here, Canada turn away from New Zealand, but they turn straight into Australia, and Australia have the right of way. Oh, that's unbelievable moment. Unbelievable for the Aussies.
A lot of drama to unpack on the first two legs of the first race here on Super Sunday. So back to live racing action. We are on leg 3 of 7, and it's still Quentin Delapierre and the French out in front. Stevie, amidst all the people talking about this race and the conditions, the experts really seem to favor France in these very tricky conditions with this heavy wind.
We've seen it before. Their maneuvers, especially in this breeze, are second to none. We see them entering all their maneuvers with one of the highest entry speeds and also a very high rate of turn, which means they're losing that minimum amount of distance every time they change direction.
And more importantly, Emily, they are only 7 points out of that third and final spot on the podium for the overall. Denmark currently holds it down with 52 points. The French sitting on 45 points, 3 back of Spain, who sit in 4th.
Yeah, it's definitely a very tight leaderboard at the moment, especially now that we've had more incidents today. There are going to be more penalty points on that board, which are definitely going to mix things up. That could be a blessing in disguise as well for Great Britain, who obviously already have -8 points. But if you've got more teams getting penalty points, it kind of helps them a little bit there.
Game changer, though, Stevie, for the Australians, and I don't know how they just obviously didn't see that, or was that just in their blind spot?
Well, yeah, I think just to clarify what happened there, that the Canadians and New Zealand had got into the protection from the boundary zone. They were entitled to turn, despite turning onto what would traditionally be not the right of way. They turned. Australia had to give them room on the boundary, so it is Australia's problem that it happened, and yeah, they're going to have a big job getting back in the race. But yeah, no foul Canada, no foul New Zealand in that situation, just to clear it up.
Nice, guys.
The chatter continues. Voices relatively calm despite the chaos down on the water. It is still France out in front. Nathan Outridge in the Swiss, Stevie, sitting in 2nd place, and Emirates GBR, they are in 3rd.
It was really interesting just there where we saw them drop the board and we saw the bow of Emirates GBR just dip down and kiss the water, and heard on board them just go, whoa! And it's just the adjustment to using these light air boards and finding the correct setting that they need to be dropping them at. Because if they're slightly too negative on rake, when they drop that foil, it sucks the hull down. And clearly they're just a little more than expected.
This would be a huge reward, Stevie, if somehow France can get themselves into the event final. They have come so close the last few events, missing out just by a point or two, and here they are taking firm control of this event on race number 1. Remember, we've got 3 fleet races, and then only the top 3 teams will go into the event final later today.
Yeah, I mean, the French have done a nice job in these windy conditions, and they like an open course. The way they like to sail the boat, they sail it pretty fast and free, often sailing a bit more distance, but they just are able to really let it rip, and these are perfect conditions for the French out there at the moment. They're trying to minimize those maneuvers now, and they're also tending to stay offshore a little bit. They're slightly clearer wind away from the shore, and the French are making the most of sailing in more wind.
The French nearly picture perfect from the get-go, and they are pulling away from the rest of the fleet. We go down to the water. Lisa, what can you see, and did you have a good view of what happened with Australia and Canada?
Yeah, I was actually sitting right on the boundary and saw it all happen. I mean, these marks, they're dark blue, they're hard to see, and it gets super congested after Mark 1. Everyone's trying to execute that first jibe with boundary protection or not. So, you know, I'm surprised there aren't more incidents on that turn normally, and that was a massive impact. They're just dropping their jib now and backing off that mark. But yeah, real impact on that team, and they're going to be gutted because these are really their conditions, and to watch everyone else be able to sail around like this, it'll be really tough for them. But France are just showing us how it's done out here in New Zealand. They're pushing every moment, but they've split the course with France and coming head-to-head now.
And this really changes the dynamic, Stevie and Emily, because Australia is the overall leader after 8 points. But Stevie, you said this could be an event changer for them. They could be done for the day. We saw Emirates GBR get the 8 points docked for the collision on practice day, so it takes them out of it. So really, we're looking at 8 teams battling for 3 spots at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, the Australians are possibly the only boat in the fleet that can afford a mistake like this. They've got that much of a season lead at the moment, but right out there on the course at the moment, we can see New Zealand are managing to really find the fast fastest route around this course. They're closing down on the French. They were way back in the pack. They're tending to sail on their own. They're trying to keep their own space, stay out of phase with the other boats would be a priority. And when they next turn the boat here, ladder lines show we're nearly level. When they come back together with the French, they'll have the right of way. Good chance for the Kiwis to take the lead right now.
Yeah, and I can tell you at the moment, the Kiwis have been averaging 57 kilometers an hour of speed around this course, while the French second fastest at 56.
And check this out. If you look at the overall season standings, if New Zealand would go on to win this event, get the 10 points, that would take them to 68 points. The Australians would get 1 point for being here. That would put them at 67.
Oh, that's an early if, mate.
67.
That's an early if.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was a lead change there. Big gains by the New Zealand crew. They're very much in phase with the wind shifts here. They're minimising distance on this upwind leg well, and yeah, generally got better boat speed. They're well set for gate 5. They're probably going to need to do one more manoeuvre. They'll turn right. France have the right of way as we come into gate 5, but the Kiwis look like they're far enough ahead at the moment.
Very impressive performance here from the Kiwis, who also had the least amount of training time at the start of the day today, as they got a little bit of foil damage when they were on their way out to the race course. All sorted before the race started, but...
Here we go, tight moment here. France have got it wound up. Look at the speed, 62 kilometres an hour. New Zealand have to keep clear. They choose to dip behind. It's going to be neck and neck at this final turn downwind mark here. Right of way at the moment with France in the lead. New Zealand second. There's nothing in that.
Great speeds there as New Zealand touches 80 kilometers an hour, and they split the course. So now it is all on. Who will take the win in race number 1? Gate 5 is complete, and the French now going back and forth with the lead with the Kiwis.
Well, when they come back together, New Zealand are going to have the right of way in terms of they'll be on starboard tack with wind coming over the right-hand side of the boat, but France are going to be on the inside for this final turning mark. It's a big moment here. Kiwis and France. Delapierre's not going away. He's not handing it to the locals.
Leg 6 of 7 on race number 1, and Content Delapierre on the left side of your screen. Here comes Peter Burling and the Kiwis, and this will be a tight crossing, as Stevie pointed out, the Kiwis having the right of way.
Yeah, that was a sensible, that's a wise head on young shoulders, Delapierre there, I think. He thought about pushing it inside the Kiwis, but a second in this first race is a solid start. Don't get yourself into an incident where you risk losing more places. Kiwis nailed it. There was no mistake on board that New Zealand boat down there. If they don't make a mistake, you just got to continue to make the next right decision. And Delapierre, that was a wise move. Look at the fans, they're going to be loving that.
The black foils bring it home now. It's final 100, 200 meters to go as they will cross the line. The first race of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch goes the way of the home team. The black foils get the win in race 1. France with a very impressive race. They check in second place, so that's 10 points and 9 points going to the Kiwis and the French. Spain will finish in third, and that's huge. Well, the good news is everyone is safe. It is just damage to the boats, and that can be repaired. So Australia, Rockwell, Denmark, first and third in the overall. After 8 events, they are done. Now it is 8 teams battling for 3 spots. And let's remind you that Emirates GB are already down 8 points because of an incident taking place during practice when they collided with the Spanish. So, deep breath, we're set to go. Race number 2, Stevie, down to the final 30 seconds. A little more breathing room for the team.
Yeah, a bit more breathing room. I mean, we didn't have a lot of action yesterday. I feel we've had 3 days worth in the last 12 minutes of racing. But France and Spain, opportunity knocks here. This is a massive moment to try and get back in it. Denmark are up and racing. Have they managed to affix a miracle repair? Well, that would be incredible work by their shore crew. If so, it looks like they're racing to be. 13 seconds to go. New Zealand well positioned. France in the middle of the line a little bit more. It's all about acceleration now. Phil Robertson, the rocket at the bottom of the line on board Canada. How's your timing, Phil Robertson? He winds it up on board Canada. Go! Perfect start, Phil Robertson. Nathan Outridge, perfect start on the Swiss boat, but the Canadians are going to have the fastest angle to Mark 1 on these big foils. They will control things. New Zealand out the back again.
Mark number 1, race number 2, Phil Robertson and the Canadians. They take control of this race with Nathan Outridge and the Swiss on the outside.
Here we go. Talking about boundary there, Phil Robertson. That means he's got to manoeuvre away. As soon as he's within 80 metres of that boundary, he gets protection for those boats on the inside to turn. But for Canada, that's not a worry right now. They are way out in front, perfectly positioned. Great start by Robertson. and in front of the fans, that's a pretty slick manoeuvre. You hear the voice of Paul Campbell, James there, the wing trimmer, talking to Phil about how he wants to sail the boat. What mode do we want? How fast are we trying to sail the boat? He said we can come down, turn the boat away from the wind if you need to. It's going to make it easier to make this next gate too.
Okay, I'll get Max. Okay, Max now. 2, 1, here we go.
Gate 2, you hear the voice of Phil Robertson, and Canada with a slick maneuver through there. Switzerland will come through second, and at the last minute, Spain decide to go to the other side of the course with France, Emirates GBR, the USA. They'll come to the left-hand side following the Canadians and the Swiss.
Yeah, that turn up at this bottom mark is a big moment with these foils. They get a lot of lift on the foils all of a sudden as they spin the boat around, and all the boats not quite able to make the easy turn. Tricky for Denmark in 7th, but in last place at the moment, the winners of race 1. What a moment.
We're seeing on that left-hand side of the screen, it's a lot lighter inshore, and there's a big shift. We saw as GBR came round the mark with that right-hand turn. They ended up pointing directly at the fans on screen, so that could have been a big loss for them there. We see 22 kilometers an hour of pressure on that shore side, 30 offshore where the Canadians are.
How about the game for the Americans? They have now moved up to the 3rd place with Canada in 1st, the Swiss in 2nd. Nathan Outteridge at the wheel now. Let's go down to Lisa Darman. And Lisa, the biggest surprise, I think, for all of us is seeing Denmark, Nikolai Sandstedt and their team pulling the full Lazarus, rising from the dead. They get in the start box at the very end. What can you tell us about the Danes and how they're able to be out there?
Well, what I can tell you is they're missing the front of their boat. Half of their bow got chopped off in that situation. But the one way that I can think about that hull is not in the water, so it's not taking.
Now, sorry. Apologies, losing Lisa there. We'll get back to her in a second. Stevie, I think what she's talking about is if they're foiling 99% of the time, they don't have to worry about having that front end.
Yeah, no pressure. Rasmus Kostner, the flight controller, on board that for the Danes, so they really need these points if they can get them right now. But it's tight. We're early on in the day here, but of course we're already thinking about a race to the final. The points are already crucial. New Zealand, look, they're off the back of the group, and here's the points.
And here on the bottom left is that race to the final. Canada currently leading the charge with 16 points as it currently stands. Switzerland just on the edge of qualifying at the moment.
How big would that be for Nathan Outteridge to come on board at his first event and get them into the final? They currently sit dead last in the overall standings, so we'll see if the Wind Whisperer can work his magic and get them some much-needed points. Right now, we're on leg 3 of 7, race number 2, and it's Emirates GBR, Canada, Switzerland, France, and Spain, your top 5.
Yeah, and it's a real boat speed course out there today. Nathan likes a shifty course. He's got to keep clear of France here. Bottom right-hand corner of our screen, the Swiss are going to potentially lose out to the French as they come into the top, but it's Great Britain. Giles Scott, first taste of leading in SailGP. Must keep clear of Canada. Early manoeuvre, spins away, and most of these boats look like they're going to turn left. Will the Swiss split away from the fleet? Yes, they do. They look for space on board the Swiss boat, but de la Pierre, wow, that French boat's fast today.
And the Swiss are going to have company as...
Oh, big bear away.
Spain comes into view right behind them.
Oh, they got slow on board Switzerland. They were slow into the manoeuvre, then they had to try and turn the boat away. Costly error there. Complex manoeuvre, but they did not execute it well. They got slow, not enough lift on the foils, and they nearly pitched over the front. Oh, big error on board that Swiss boat, and they're now back in the pack as we see Phil Robertson. He's going well, but Diego Botín on board Spain. Bottom right-hand corner of our screen. They're back in the race. Turns on to the right of Wayman tack there, and he's going to be coming back at the fleet with rights.
And GBR currently the fastest boat on the course, 55.9 kilometers an hour average around this race course, with Canada and France still pushing hard behind.
Remember, it's all about accumulating the most points over 3 races. 10 points to the winner, 1 point for last. Canada now on the lead. We saw moments ago Emily doing her projections of who would make the top 3 if it stood right now, but still one more race still to go. Canada has the lead. Emirates GBR in 2nd place with the French in 3rd.
Oh, we just saw a last-minute decision by the British to dip behind the Canadians. We've, of course, got an obstruction. Those channel markers in the course, the boats are not allowed through between the red and the green on the screen that we just saw there, so the teams have all got to avoid that. Giles Scott, last-minute decision. He just got out of the way, but the Canadians look like they've smoothed things down a bit here. They turn right. Great Britain right, France right, and Spain are going to be the first to split away.
Oh,
no,
France.
last-minute decision, but they're going to open the door for Spain. Spain have the right of way, no problem. Top right of screen, New Zealand have the right of way. Switzerland have got to miss them. Wow, tight moment there. Oh no, love loss, and the Swiss are high on the foils here. They're going to be loose on the mark rounding. Oh, it's getting messy on board that Swiss boat. Look at it go. Oh. Big ease on the wing needed. It's getting fast and loose out on the race course.
Pushing the envelope, Nathan Outridge and the Swiss there, and they bring both holes now down safely into the water, and that was certainly a moment. The Danes now looking to pick up possibly another position, and that just means points in the overall with the damaged boat. Meanwhile, out in front, it is Canada on top, Great Britain, and then Spain and France.
And this is how that race to the final looks at the moment. We have a four-way tie, all on 16 points. Canada, Spain, and France would make it through, as it is the tiebreak comes down to the last race. So at the moment, Kiwis are the bottom of that pack in this race. So
and that's because the Kiwis sit in 5th place. But Emily, that's a lot better than they were, what, 10 minutes ago when they were in 8th and 9th.
Exactly. And look at this again. Look, you see how most of the boats are sailing towards up the screen, and New Zealand are sailing left to right on our screen, and they've just done a very good job. We call that they're getting out of phase. If you can be sailing on their own, they'll be sailing at their own optimal speed. They're making the progress towards that next mark as efficiently as they can, and that's how they're able to gain through. It's clever tactical sailing by Burling and Liv Mackay at the back of that New Zealand boat. They're in it, but they need to overtake another place if they're going to make themselves take the lead in this regatta. But of course, there should be a third race out here today.
Kiwis have got to be licking their chops with an opportunity to really close the gap on the Australians, who lead the overall. Remember, the Australians, 3-time reigning and defending champions, and the Black Foils are hunting down more and more points. And right now, they've got France and Spain in their sights here. Leg 5 of 7. They'll go through gate number 5. They'll come back halfway up, and then the finish line.
Oh, there we go. We see Spain just turn directly in front of Spain, but big moment. France have dropped back behind New Zealand. Winds rotated right towards the right-hand side of our screen, and we can see the boats on the right of the screen are sailing nearly straight up the ladder line. Extra distance there, missed the wind shift, the French, and they've lost a place. That could be huge in the race to the final, but of course we should see another race to go, and New Zealand are going to have to do another manoeuvre to get round the gate. France have the rights over New Zealand here as they enter this top mark, but New Zealand look like they're going to be clear ahead. Tight cross coming. Has Burling judged it right? De La Pierre has the right of way. I think he's maybe round. It's really, whoa, perfect judgment by the Kiwis.
And Canada has all but checked out.
I think I just became the favourite Kiwi.
Oh, Phil Robertson, he is an optimist, that man, isn't he?
He is the gift that keeps on giving.
I've seen an awful lot of Black Foils signs in the crowd. Not too many Phil Robertson masks, but he's going well at the moment. Defending champion here, of course.
And this summary here is from that previous downwind leg, and we can see how the Kiwis caught up and moved themselves into 3rd place. So previously downwind, they averaged 68.1 kilometers of average speed, and also sailed the shortest distance. So the Canadians looking pretty safe, but not necessarily the fastest boat on the course.
So Canada at mark number 6, they'll have a straight shot to the finish line. Hopefully they've sorted that marking out so everyone will know. Spain comes in on a funky line there, Stevie, and they're going to have to just peel off. Yeah, they'll make it, and they'll take a turn. So it'll be a battle for 2nd place between Spain and Emirates GBR.
But Spain
and here come the Kiwis.
Spain are slow. Great Britain are going to have a lot more speed against the Spanish. Look at that, nearly 20 kilometers an hour faster. They should be able to defend from here as they build speed, but Canada are going to get it done.
Race number 2 at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix goes the way of the Canadians with a Kiwi at the wheel.
Tight behind, but Spain are going to get it in 2nd. The Black Foils are coming fast behind the Brits, but that's going to be 2nd place for Spain, 3rd for Great Britain, and the hometown heroes, well, it's 4th, but they came from last all the way to 4th.
And that is huge news for the Spanish team, as that will put them in 1st overall at the moment for today.
The course for race 4 is 7 legs. The course axis is 080. Wind is approximately 27 kilometers per hour.
Just coming back to that point, though, Todd, what's interesting is I think we are getting to the pinch point of the season here.
Yeah.
And Tom Slingsby's interview, he's worried about the Kiwis. So I think today that could be a story. You know, we've got that finals not far away now, and the Kiwis do look like the best team. And talking about that final, pressure's on this boat. Can't think there's much more pressure than on Ben Ainsley and his crew, really. They had a decent day yesterday, but they're still behind the French in the overalls. And for him to miss the final would be almost unthinkable.
Right now, Emirates GBR is 2 points behind France for that third and final spot in the grand final in San Francisco. And right now, the French, Stevie, despite what they did towards the yesterday, they look pretty good.
They're very good at Maël Frascari there, the strategist's first event on the boat. As we see with a minute to go, we're already up and running. Very different strategies. New Zealand, Denmark. Denmark looked late to the party. Disappointing day yesterday. A lot of technical problems, and they look well out of position right now. Australia, typically first to turn back. They love to control the start. So for me, Australia's got good control, but it could be New Zealand with this timed run in behind everyone that lined things up well. 35 seconds to go. People have played their cards, and we're looking to make things happen. And Britain, Great Britain, they're only just on our screen. They really are out of position. 27 seconds to go. Australia turns the boat down. He looks to accelerate across the fleet. Start line's very close. Whole fleet close in. New Zealand and Australia well positioned at the moment, but it's going to be a case of getting the acceleration right. There's the pole position. Now the French have blocked off New Zealand. Aggressive by De La Pierre. What's that going to do? Opening a door potentially for Great Britain to dive in at the end. 5 seconds to go. How's the timing on the line? Oh, it's perfect from Australia there, and the Australians are going to be so fast with a better angle to Mark 1. They should lead the fleet away.
Race number 4 is off and running here at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix Christchurch, and it is the Aussies in desperate need of points. It'll get to Mark 1 first.
Really good start by the Australians there, and Denmark, well, I thought he'd left it too late, but Sejerstad, by the skin of his teeth, he gets second at Mark 1, and he's got to drop back, though. That penalty's going to really hurt him here. Could open the door for Jimmy Spitt, who was the first to turn away as New Zealand. Now, they've been reading this course well, and they're looking for space. They move away from the fleet. Look how close that racing is there, Todd. All the crews get to this boundary in front of the fans very quickly. It gets pretty tight on the course there, but quite orderly today. And good news for Australia. Well lined up for gate 2. You've got to think from here they'll try and keep it simple. Straight through the gate with the left turns, my guess for Australia. But where in New Zealand? Have they found more wind? Have Great Britain found more wind on the left-hand side of the screen?
And we've got to point out the hazards in the middle. You cannot go between those markers. You have to go around them. It is the Australians that will get to gate number 2 first. The Americans in a drag race with France. Stevie, who's got the right of way between the Americans and the French?
The French have to keep clear at the moment, but when they hit that yellow circle, the French will be entitled to room on the inside. So it's tight moment here, but the French have held on. They now have the right of way. Jimmy Spittle must give them space to round.
Gate 2, it's Australia, France, and the USA here in race number 4. It's Super Sunday. Everyone jockeying for points and position.
First to split away, there's Great Britain. Look at those dark blotches in the water. That is seaweed. That's what Tom Slingsby was talking about yesterday. There seems to be a lot of seaweed in the water, so the crews are going to need an eye out for that as well. As Canada, they were on fire yesterday, but this is a disappointing start for Phil Robertson's crew. And Sejerstad, wow, that penalty. Second all the way back to 9th. What a painful penalty.
On board the Canadians, still calm voices. Phil Robertson, their driver, trying to move them up the ladder. And there you see the leaders right now. Australia out in front, Great Britain now in 3rd, France in 2nd. USA now has moved up to 2nd place, so great run for the Americans and Jimmy Spithill.
Look at the angle Great Britain's having to sail here. They're having to avoid that no-go zone, and he's sailing. He's not making any progress up the course. What a mistake by the British crew. They've got to go all the way around that post. Disaster. And right now, New Zealand, they've got space, and they're stretching away.
Still seeing the best speeds here by the Australian team. 55 kilometres per hour averaging up this leg here. Definitely no seaweed on those rudders today.
Americans having to dip behind the French. And that will cost them as New Zealand now inherits 3rd place. The Americans dropping back to 4th. This is race 4. We're on leg 3 of 7. One more fleet race to go. And then only the top 3 teams will race in the last race of the day.
Well, at the moment with the things are here,
Just trying to do a bit of avoiding of these weed patches. It's coming down a bit lower.
Learned his lesson from yesterday by the look of it, trying to avoid that weed. As we see now the French up to second. Again, they found some space and they've got plenty of speed. But New Zealand, top of our screen there with Great Britain, they've got the right of way. Jimmy Spittle needs to be confident he's clear ahead here.
52 kilometers an hour for the Americans. They sit in third. Everyone chasing the Australians. And remember, Australia finished in 9th place to wrap up yesterday, but they did have two first good races going 4 and 2.
100% fly time at the moment for the top 3 teams. Australia still leading the way with speed, 52 kilometers an hour versus France slightly slower, and the USA a little bit further behind that. But brilliant sailing. They've got a much more open course today, so really able to get those speeds up.
I think it just highlights as well, the boat ahead should always be faster. They're sailing in clear wind, there's no disturbed air, and those Australians know how to make the most of that. Slingsby there, he tacks that yellow line. That's what we call the lay line. That means he should make it to gate 3 with no more changes, but they're struggling to lift the board. Look how slow that board was coming up on board Australia there. Well lined up for gate 3, and if we go back to yesterday, Todd, the position at gate 3 was pretty definitive, so it'll be interesting how that plays out from here.
Constant comms across the board on board Australia. They are the 2-time reigning and defending champions of SailGP, trying to make it the 3-peat here. Can they hold off the Kiwis and the French?
Really nice rounding there. As we can see, it's really tight here coming into gate 3. Great Britain, USA are close, and Switzerland are going to have the right of way. Jimmy Spittle and USA needs to keep clear. New Zealand up to second. The French just sneak round third, and it's so tight in at the top here. Ainsley tries to dive inside the US. Oh, it was tight. I think they all negotiated that really quite well through that moment there, but the USA must keep clear of Ben Ainsley's Great Britain here. And back in the pack, Canada 8th, Spain 7th.
On leg 4 of 7, let's go down on the water and Lisa Darmanin.
Well, Todd, because of the wind direction, it is more consistent across the course, but the teams had no practice to figure out this racetrack. But what I'm seeing right now is there's a beautiful wind funnel along the shore where that crowd is, so there are big gains to be made out there. It's going to be a tough day if you're not out in front to navigate between the boats and those pylons.
So everyone right now chasing Australia. There you see their lead is over 300 meters. And it is the Kiwis that are starting to reel them in, Stevie. How about that? If they can get in touch with them, we'll have ourselves a head-to-head matchup between Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, leg 4 of 7, that's a massive lead for Slingsby here. I don't see him letting this slip, but they split at the top, and there was a gain to the people on the crowd, and that's probably reassuring for Lisa.
Throwing back to that last leg, we can see that the Aussies and Kiwis were neck and neck with pace, both averaging 50k an hour, but the Aussies were doing less distance again, so making gains all the time.
We've seen this happen before with Australia having a bad race, and they come back and put on a stellar performance just to get into that final. Stevie, we know what happens when you get Australia into a 3-boat race. They're always the odds-on favorite.
They are, but generally speaking, the Kiwi boat's been fast here. As we see the French and New Zealand, France has the right of way. What does Burling do? He chooses to play the safe option, doesn't push it. He's going to split left. He'll have clear wind on a left turn here, but the French, Contant de la Pierre's going nowhere. They're sailing that boat very, very fast. USA and Switzerland, so close here. Wow, that was such a late manoeuvre here.
This is the umpires. Penalty USA relative to Switzerland. Port tack boat not keeping clear.
So he needs to drop back behind the Swiss here, Jimmy Spittle. That was such a late manoeuvre, a bit too aggressive right there. As we see on the far side of the course, New Zealand and Great Britain, they've split away. Can they find a bit more wind and chase down those Australians?
So they'll make their way up to gate number 5, then they'll come back down, and then it'll be a short blast to the finish line with Australia looking to pick up valuable points here in race number 4. They are the 2-time reigning and defending champions, and Tom Slingsby said before the start of the racing yesterday, there's nothing the Australians love to do to come to Kiwi waters and beat them.
260-meter lead for Australia there, and it just keeps growing. 270 now.
Good game for New Zealand versus France here. New Zealand have the right of way. They were behind France at the last gate. Now they move back ahead. So slight gain to New Zealand, but there's not a lot of difference whether you go to the left of the course or to the right of the course where the French are now. So really, it's down to the execution of the manoeuvres at this stage. And Great Britain, Emirates Great Britain, really needs to pass the French here in that battle for the top 3 places.
Great shot of New Zealand. Emirates GBR right behind them.
God, they were just pushing so high. You saw the boat wobble and slip. That was just because they got a little bit high out of the water. They start to lose grip and the boat slides sideways. But it just shows how hard Burling's wanting to push things. But the Australians have slowed right down on the top of screen. They've got a big, big lead, so there won't be any panic yet.
So that lead now under 200 meters, which was closer to 300, but they are on leg 5 of 7. So it'll be one more leg once they get through this gate number 5 down and then back up to the finish line.
New Zealand and France, it's going to be tight here. Well, they're just absolutely tied together on a piece of string, really. Tight cross. New Zealand must be safely across. It's really tight again. Be interesting whether the French decide to protest here. I think it was probably okay, but we'll hear maybe from Craig Mitchell at some stage. Nothing yet. I think he was clear ahead on board New Zealand there, and still Australia. They're stretching that lead again. Back into good breeze, sailing fast.
Constant communications on board Australia as Tom Slingsby's asking his tactician to keep an eye on traffic about. So he already knows that it's going to be New Zealand and GBR as they make this turn to the right-hand side.
This is the final downwind leg here. Downwind, they turn away. Look at the acceleration there, up to 75. There's so much less drag when you're going downwind. The boat just goes a lot faster. Potentially just 1 or 2 manoeuvres left. And again, New Zealand and France absolutely neck and neck. Right of way with the New Zealand boat here. If the French stay inside that circle, oh my word. Great move by Delapierre. It's so tight, but they're going to split away from each other. And New Zealand, well, that was the favoured way to turn left. Good news for the Kiwi crew at this point, but he's got to watch out for Denmark here. So close. Wow.
It's crucial here for the French team not to make any mistakes. By placing a place ahead of the British team, it really helps them in this battle for the final. At the moment, with these current results, you would see New Zealand, Great Britain and France all within 2 points of each other going into race 5.
And remember, it's only the top 3 teams that will race in the final race of the day. Australia doing themselves a solid right now as they lead with a huge margin. New Zealand sits in second, France in third, and Great Britain trying to make gains. The Americans, Stevie, they were up into 4th, and then they got that penalty on Switzerland, which has dropped them back to 6th.
Yeah, I mean, the standard's so high now that if you make a mistake and you get a penalty, it's just too costly. We saw the Australians here. They've done a really nice job in this race. That should put them right back in the hunt for the overalls. I think a 2nd place for New Zealand will nearly definitely put them in the final already. They were nearly 7 points ahead already here. So that's good news for the New Zealand fans on the shoreline there. But the French, they're charging down. Has he got the line right into this final turning mark? It's going to be really close at the bottom. Potentially a last-minute dive in from Delapierre. Yep. He has the right of way. New Zealand must let him in there. Oh la la! So close, but France, can they stay on the foils? It's going to be a sprint to the finish. The French must keep clear of New Zealand.
As they make a turn to the finish line with Australia already in the winner's circle, and France goes a little bit wide.
Penalty France.
Oh, and France does get a penalty. So Australia gets the win in race 4. The Kiwis hold on for 2nd, and France now an opportunity wasted.
Well, and there could be another boat coming, and the French haven't finished yet. I think they're going to sneak across in 3rd, but Great Britain was there. It's going to be a photo finish. Well, I don't want to call that one. Potentially, GBR got there before the French. I'm not sure. That was so close on the line. And what a result for Diego Botín and his Spanish crew in 4th. Brilliant result by the new driver on Spain there. Great job. Sorry, 5th place for the Spanish. My mistake. Canada coming home there just ahead of Denmark. Wow, that was a really close finish, and that's going to have done some serious changes on the overalls.
Everyone getting into position here in the start box.
7 legs. The axis is 080. Wind is approximately 29 kilometers per hour.
That's race manager Melanie Roberts spelling things out. So, Stevie, here we go. Everyone going to play a little cat and mouse here. Who's going to blink first?
Oh, I can't wait. This, for me, is a dry... This is the last chance for New Zealand and Australia to land a punch on each other before the grand final in San Fran. Looks like they're going to be in it now. And, well, can Canada come and spoil the party? But I'm expecting a big, big fight between Australia and New Zealand.
Under a minute to go before the start of the final here at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix Christchurch. The Kiwis a little late coming in.
I think they're just trying to set it up to make sure they can line themselves up relative to the other boat. He's letting the other teams make the first move. Australia likes that, but Burling likes to be a bit more reactionary. He's going to see what they set up, see what opportunity presents itself for him with 35 seconds to go. What's the next move? Pole position, that blue mark on our line to the right of the screen, that's the optimum place to start on the line. I think that could be a little bit late by New Zealand, though. They're turning back. They're going to look to push Australia back towards the start line. We've got a pusher and a blocker here. It's going to be tight. Canada are well positioned. New Zealand need to get a move on here. They've got to start rolling over the top with 10 seconds to go. It's going to be a straight line drag race in. Canada are well positioned, but New Zealand are coming in hot. 3 seconds to go. Watch for the line to turn white. Blanket start there, and I think it's going to be a case of can New Zealand be fast enough? They're going to struggle to get round the top, but if anyone can do it, the Kiwis can do it. They've got to keep clear of Australia, and Canada are hanging on the inside.
And at mark number 1, it is all on here in the big final at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix Christchurch. And it is the Canadians out in front. Stevie, Emily, this would be their first final victory if they could pull it off.
Great start by Phil Robertson under pressure. He's in a good position. There's gate 2. Canada set up for the first turn here, and New Zealand are going to be held out by Australia. This is going to come down to the accuracy of manoeuvres here. It's so close. The Canadians are probably not quite as quick as Australia, but there they go. Both boats turn simultaneously, and it's another sprint. Australia on the inside. Canada have the right of way. Australia must keep clear, but that's a boundary there. He can't push the Australians into that. He's going to have to let them have room. Here we go. Canada's going to be aggressive now. Watch out. Australia must keep clear. Another aggressive move from Robertson.
Disappointing speeds from the Kiwis at the moment. 10 kilometers an hour slower than the other two teams.
Just sailing in that disturbed wind for New Zealand being at the back of the pack. I would imagine a right turn here for New Zealand. Canada, great move by Robertson, really aggressive. And Australia are pushed back to third. New Zealand dive in, but Canada are a little bit slow as they turn up. All three boats are making some small mistakes. Canada turn left, they get the first pick, and it's Burling's New Zealand up to second.
Pete Burling calling for the high mode. The Aussies right behind him.
He's trying to force the Australians out of his way at the moment. Until he gets to the boundary, the New Zealand boat can't turn because the right of way would be with Australia. As he gets to the boundary, he'll get protection, but Canada, they're sprinting away on the other side, able to sail fast.
On the other side of the course, Canada are doing 55, 56 kilometers an hour. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side of the course, we have the Kiwis and Aussies doing 40 kilometers an hour. Huge difference.
This is the umpires. Boundary penalty, Australia.
He's got to lose 20 metres there, too aggressive. We kind of felt it might happen. They're trying to land punches on each other. They've gone slow. It's opened the door for Canada. But now, New Zealand are in space. They're 100 metres behind the Canadians. They've got some chasing to do.
In the grand scheme of things, New Zealand and Australia can give away points to Canada. They could let the Canadians get this first overall win for their program. Canada sits in 7th place overall on 49 points. Australia has 76, New Zealand 64. But, Stevie, you know these two guys. Pete Burling, Tom Slingsby, they've raced against each other, and they're not going to give each other an inch.
Todd, I've not spent a lot of time in New Zealand, but I can tell you one thing. Kiwis don't like losing in New Zealand. This is their home turf. They want to win for the fans. They want to win for themselves. And they're not going to like seeing Canada out in front. But also, let's not forget Phil Robertson. Yes, he's driving the Canadian boat. He's got a Kiwi accent too.
So Robertson, who used to sail for Spain, New Zealand, by birth, and here he is sailing for Canada, trying to give them their first SailGP Grand Final victory.
Look at the lead come down, 60 metres, it was 100 metres, so the New Zealand boat is chipping away, but once again, Robertson lines them up. He's going the same way. He's limiting the opportunity for the Kiwis to overtake. They're going to have to use that boat speed that we saw on day one.
By staying close to the other teams, he's making sure he's in all the same wind shifts. So that means if the Kiwis get a different shift, Phil will get that as well, and they can cover, stay close, minimize losses.
Phil Robertson and Canada out in front, leg 3 of 7. This is the big final from Christchurch as we go down on the water, and Lisa Darmanin.
Well, Phil has the opportunity to just keep it simple. He'll probably do a left turn at this top gate, and the Kiwis will have to do another manoeuvre, while Australia may lay one and in to this left turn. So it's all on for this next cross.
So at gate number 3, it is Canada. Phil Robertson, the driver. Second place belongs to the Kiwis and Peter Burling. And third place, Australia, the two-time reigning and defending champions. And first place overall after 9 events, Australia.
It's tight for those two back there. Australia went out of bounds twice on this upwind leg, but those penalties haven't really hurt them. And here we go, 12 seconds the advantage for Canada over New Zealand. That's a slight stretch from where it was at gate 2. We're halfway through the race, and now the fleet's spread out a little bit. It's a little bit more of a battle of boat speed, but the Canadians, no problem with their boat speed right now. Look at that, 74 kilometres an hour, stretching out, and New Zealand, they're just struggling to keep pace with the Canadians.
They're already talking about the next gate, Stevie and Emily. They're looking for something.
Throwing back to that previous leg of the race, we can see that the Canadians averaged 53.4 kilometres an hour, while both Kiwis and Aussies were too busy battling each other out and a lot slower. It's less than 50.
Oh, in the back, Canada! Look at the jibe, Todd. They've fallen off. They turned the boat. They flew too high. They're back on the foils now, but they're going to have lost distance and they're going to be rattled. Can they recompose themselves? Opportunity now for the New Zealand boat to shut the distance, but it sounds like they've got it back under control on Canada, maybe just in time.
So that lead now down to 100 meters, and it is New Zealand breathing down the neck of the Canadians.
It's going to be tight here. We're back under 100 meters. We're going to have to be thinking New Zealand will want to try and split away from the Canadians here. If Canada turns right, you can be sure New Zealand will want to turn left.
And they're going to follow him.
They're going to follow. I'm surprised at that. Must be really feeling there's a big advantage, or perhaps he just thinks by breathing down their neck, he can force another mistake.
Uncharacteristic mistake by the Canadians. They were almost 300 meters clear, and now their lead down to 67 meters.
There you go, first to turn away New Zealand. Obviously like the advantage there. Australia, they match manoeuvres with the Kiwis, and Canada, well, they're sailing well in towards the shore here. Can they clear that boundary? The 3 posts we see there, they're not allowed to sail between that. If Canada has to dip round the edge of that red one, I think this could be a mistake by the Canadians.
And look at the speed difference.
Yeah, they're so fast. That's because Canada are trying to get above this green post to our left here. He's sailing closer to the wind, so he's going slower, but he's going to save himself some distance. Leads come down. When they turn in a minute, New Zealand will have the right of way. This could be a race, an event-defining moment here. Canada have given the opportunity to New Zealand, and New Zealand are on fire.
And New Zealand has overtaken the Canadians, their first lead of the race. So it's New Zealand, Canada, and Australia here in the final race, leg 5 of 7.
We've got those average speeds there. Canadians marginally faster at the moment, but we did see them lose all of that distance from avoiding the obstruction.
Yeah, here we go, right of way with New Zealand. Canada must be confident they're across. If they cross, they'll have control back as we get towards the top of the course. Well, that was a big save by the Canadians, but this is going to be really tight at the top of the course. Can't afford any more mistakes here.
Phil Robertson, the top of your screen. Canadians currently in first place. Peter Burling sitting in second with the homestanding Kiwis.
There on the top left, we've got the distance to lead us, 16 meters, and dropping now towards Canada.
It's really tight, but when they come back together, it'll be Canada with the right of way here until they get close to the gate. Australia, they've dropped back. I think they're out of this at this point. It's all about, can the Kiwis put enough pressure on Canada and find a chink in that Canadian armour? Nice turn there. They're neck and neck on the ladder lines. Canada have the right of way. Canada set up. They're going to try and block the New Zealand boat here. Here we go. Great manoeuvre by the Canadians, but how are they lined up for the gate here? It looks tight. New Zealand are quicker. Oh, it's so tight.
It's going to be the first to the yellow circle. Who's going to get there first and control it? It looks like Canada's opting for that right-hand side. Does Peter Burling split with him?
Canada will have the inside, but they are slow at this point in time. New Zealand are going to look to try and slingshot down inside and control the next manoeuvre. Here we go. Follows, he's going to try and pressure him with the manoeuvres. This is the final downwind leg here, Todd, and Canada have done a brilliant job of hanging in. One last roll of the dice for Australia, but I think, here we go. There go New Zealand. First to turn away, it's now just a drag race.
And the wind up to 37 kilometers an hour across the course.
It's just perfect sailing conditions, Todd. Basically, we're going to see 2 more turns down at the bottom of the course here. Another mistake by Canada.
Boundary penalty, Canada.
Oh, no! That could be, they're going to have to lose 20 metres relative to the speed of the New Zealand boat. They're going to have the right of way. This might not be the end of the race for the Canadians, but that's going to really hurt them distance-wise. Here we go, one more manoeuvre for Burling. He wants to own the zone, he just said there. He wants to be right on the inside coming into this mark, and he's going to try and do a handbrake turn inside the Canadians as his final move of the event.
That's the Canadians clear of their penalty there, so foot down, full speed ahead.
Foot down indeed. Here we go. Coming downwind here fast. Which side do they line up on these posts? Can Canada get round? Canada seem to have found an extra bit of wind here. They're going so fast on that Canadian boat. The ladder lines show us neck and neck.
It does look like the Canadians are currently laying that gate.
Canada has the right of way, but do they make it down to the gate in time here?
It's all going to come down to this at gate number 6. Then it'll be the turn to the finish line. It'll either be Canada with their driver, Phil Robertson, a Kiwi, or New Zealand will take it on home waters, and it's Canada cutting in front. So despite the penalty, they made up the ground, and it'll be a right-hand turn. And how about this? A little history made in Christchurch, as Phil Robertson will steer Canada to their first SailGP victory, and it comes at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix.
What a job by the Canadians. Wow, clinical there.
Just when it looked like New Zealand had put the pressure on and forced them into a penalty, it is Canada and Phil Robertson that get the job done. The Kiwis hold on for second place, and Australia will come in on third.
By getting right to the edge of the course there, he went a bit wide, but he meant he got past that boundary without doing any more manoeuvres. Absolutely pushing the limits there, Phil Robertson, but that's what he does, and what an amazing performance by this Canadian crew. Great to see them taking their first ever victory.
And with under a minute 8 to go before the start of the race, Canada will be the third team that will profile Phil Robertson. Of course, Kiwi by birth, the winner of this event last year, Stevie. He's got some good people around him, including no other than Paul Campbell-James.
Yeah, Paul CJ's been a nice addition to the team, but again, Billy Gooderham, I can't help but look at him. Big Gooderham's got to fly the boat aggressively, and what I love there in Phil's interview, he just said what he wants to do. We can judge him on his plan. The plan, he said, was to win the pin end of the line. What does he mean by that? He means the downwind end, the end that's going to be closest to the bottom of our TV screen. That's because from the top of the line, they're struggling to get full pace, but Burling wants it too. He tries to turn inside the Canadians. Robertson defends, cuts down across the Kiwis. Now, here we go. What's the next play? Robertson's well positioned, but New Zealand will have a run at him, and Delapierre looks like he's going to go on his own, and he's going to wind it up on that French boat now. New Zealand, one more turn down. They attack the Canadians again. Does Robertson defend, or does he open things up? It's 9 seconds to go. Canada must keep clear of New Zealand. Burling's timed this well. France are coming at pace. How's your timing? Peter Burling at the bottom end of the line. Perfect from the Kiwis there on the inside. They have control. They should lead from here at Mark 1, but there's going to be some tight rules incidents. France must keep clear of Canada. Canada must keep clear of New Zealand, but the Canadians are out the back.
The French are the fastest boat on the course right now, over 80 kilometers an hour of speed. The Kiwis also very quick and have the inside.
At mark number 1, it is the Kiwis. The black foils are up and foiling with pace. Canada sits on the inside, France on the outside. Stevie, this is a big moment, leg 2 of 7.
Well, Robertson called the best place to start, but he just couldn't quite execute it. Burling's timing was absolutely spot on. He attacked him with 10 seconds to go. There was no defense left. Now, big decision at the bottom here. Do you save a maneuver on this leg with a left turn, or we've seen the Kiwis make a gain by heading back towards the crowd? It'll be interesting what Burling and Tuke choose to do. This is the first time they've actually had a choice. Looks like they're going to keep it simple with a left turn. Canada will follow. I anticipate France is surely going to look to split the course. No, they're going to stay with them. Their whole fleet are staying tight, and if you're on board that New Zealand boat, you are over the moon to see that.
New Zealand, the winners of race number 1. Canada won race number 2. And France won race number 3. So all the winners are out there today, and Canada's the first to turn away.
Well, yeah, they're just saying, as soon as you're sailing behind someone, Todd, you're in disturbed wind. You've effectively got less potential horsepower. Someone's blocking the wind in front of you there, and that's why Canada have chosen to get out, so they can sail their own race, sail with their own speed. But it was a bit of a loss early on the leg for the Canadians, and France, they're going to be struggling to overtake the New Zealand boat by just following at the moment.
At the boundary, it is the Kiwis, the black foils, they make the turn. Content Delapierre and the French, they sit in second on the course as it stands right now. Did Phil Robertson make the right call to split away early?
We'll find out in a minute. It doesn't look like a great call at the moment. It looks like the wind's rotated right. He's got a big left shift at the top. He's really turned away from those lines, but he's struggling. Look how slow they are. The wind's got light on that left-hand side, and that's what Lisa told us. There's more wind towards the bottom of our screen. Should be good news for France and New Zealand, and it certainly looks it at the minute. Canada off the foils.
And so far, we are seeing the Kiwis sailing beautifully. Out of the maneuvers, they are accelerating so much quicker than the French, and that's saying something for the boat that previously was the masterclass.
Well, yeah, but the New Zealand boat spent most of the day sailing in disturbed wind. We've not really seen what they can do, and right now, look at that. That was a massive loss, that extra maneuver. The wind got light on Canada, and they now need a mistake from those 2 lead boats. They're just at the minute that both teams, New Zealand and France, are stretching as wide as they can on the course. They're sailing right from boundary to boundary. That strategically is to save maneuvers. Every time you turn the boat like this, you lose speed, you lose distance. So if you can minimize maneuvers, you get yourself sailing around the course pretty quick.
But look at the speed of Canada right now. It's increasing. Now at 58 kilometers an hour, where the Kiwis are going 43, the French drop now to 39.
Yeah, they're just sailing a slightly faster, wider angle at the moment, Todd. New Zealand is desperately trying to make it up to this next turning mark without another maneuver. That's the main priority for the Kiwis at the moment. France chasing in, but New Zealand, if they can get round here, I imagine France will follow them, and they'll feel very much in a controlling position on New Zealand. It's all about keeping it tidy.
Now it's the Kiwis on to leg 4 of 7 here in the event final of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix, trying to win their home event. France does in fact follow the Kiwis, and now it is Canada that has lost distance despite the speed, and the speed picks up for the Kiwis. Look at this, approaching 70 kilometers an hour.
The French currently with the fastest average speed around the course, slightly closing that gap with the Kiwis, but will it be enough?
And that's just classic of the French. They like to sail the boat fast, but normally the consequence of sailing the boat fast is you're sailing a little bit more distance. It's always a little way up. Do you sail less distance or do you sail faster? And New Zealand at the moment, what I like about the French right here is they're just, the Kiwis continually are making the right moves. So don't do the wrong move and give them the race easily. At the minute the French are staying there, once we're halfway up the next upwind leg, Delapierre's going to have to try something. He can't continue to follow the Kiwis, but at the moment it's not a terrible strategy because you just keep the pressure on the Kiwis and you see if they're going to crack under that pressure.
It's certainly something that does not happen very often, Peter Burling cracking under pressure. But to your point, Stevie, this really is the first race that they've had this all by themselves out in front, no one to have to deal with. As Lisa talked to Peter Burling, having that extra space, wasn't really confident about their starts, but today it seemed to work, and here they are at gate number 4.
Yeah, here go the French. Now he's making his move. De La Pierre chooses to do the extra manoeuvre down here, splits away. Burling turns right back towards the fans, and this is it. This is De La Pierre's move. He's splitting the course. He's hoping for extra, but look at that. They're a bit high. They're a bit loose on that rounding. It was a tricky rounding, but they're messy. They're messy on the French boat there. They've got slow. Should be good news for the Kiwis, but when they next come back together, whoever is ahead, I think, will look to take the win here because they're going to have a big advantage.
Currently, we have slightly more pressure on that offshore side, as we've seen before with the French, but not a lot.
No, and it looks like a gain to me to New Zealand, to be perfectly honest right now. Looks like potentially a 100-metre move. I think the French had to do that. I've got no problem with that from De La Pierre. He needed to try something, but they just didn't execute it well. It was a messy rounding at the bottom. Not the easiest thing to do, the jibe and then turn the boat up. 2 manoeuvres in a row, but they just didn't do it smoothly. 50 metres is now 120 metres. This is the New Zealand black foils. This is their chance to bring it home in front of the fans.
Now, if they take the win here, it's not just the event that they are going to win. They are going to take the lead on the overall season leaderboard.
And a very tidy maneuver there by the black foils. The Kiwis and their sponsors looks like they are bringing it home. The lead now, it has shrunk down to 100, so the French have picked up about 50 meters, but again, they are running out of real estate as the Kiwis will get through this next gate. Then they'll head back up the course. Phil Robertson getting back into play, but he has run out of time as well. He's got a massive deficit to second and first.
Yeah, Burling did that extra maneuver there to ensure that he controls the final decision into the gate, so he was happy to sacrifice a few meters to give himself tactical control here. He's going to turn the boat now one last time before this top gate, right on top of the French, and then it should now be one turn downwind and they'll be lined up for the final mark. So yeah, lost a bit of distance to gain a lot of control there. Classic, safe match racing move from Burling on the French, and it's advantage New Zealand. De La Pierre and the French crew need a Kiwi mistake to have any hope of getting the win here now.
How easy are we making it? Okay, come down. France round right turn now.
So France follows New Zealand, hoping that Peter Burling and his team possibly make a mistake, have a sloppy maneuver, and they can capitalize. But right now it is over the 200 meters that the Kiwis have the lead. They have waited a long time for this one, and they are on their way to claiming the title here in Christchurch.
Last maneuver here, Todd. Can they nail it? The boat's smooth. Look how level that platform stays. Both hulls similar distance above the water, silky smooth. They then tip the boat slightly on top. There's a lot of water over them, avoiding that mark. Oh, that was a little bit scrappy by the Kiwis. Oh, but the French are scrappy in the background as well. They're up in the air, maybe fatigue. It's been a long day out here on the water, but right now the black foils are locked back in. They've got their heel locked back in. The French are charging, but it's going to be too little too late on board this French boat. Going to be second for France as the black, hear the crowd on the shore. That sounds like half of New Zealand standing up to applaud them.
And they bring it straight in towards the Adrenaline Lounge here in Littleton Harbor. All of Christchurch on their feet. Say hello to your winners. It's the Black Foils with the win.
Nothing the Kiwis like more than a hometown win, and France bring it home in second. Quentin de La Pierre, well, he's a pragmatic guy. For the season, massive, massive moment for the French. That could put them back into the top 3, back into that dream of making the grand final in San Francisco later in season 4. But have a look at that for the New Zealand crew. Burling, he's pumped. The fans are pumped. Water days racing.
And look at the size of the crowd that turned out. They were disappointed yesterday that there was no racing. Certainly worth the wait today. Action from the very start, and it is the hometown favorites, the Black Foils, that get the win here at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix.